Hey everybody, welcome to the Artisan School. My name is David and I'm going to be your instructor today, and we're going to be talking about how to kind of my process in tuning a grand piano. So it's a kind of a how to tune a grand piano, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the tools, the posture, and some of the techniques that I use. I use what's called a hybrid tuning technique, and that's what we teach. And what it is it's a combination of aural tuning where you're using your ear, but then you're also using what's called an ETD, or an electronic tuning device. The one that we use here at Artisan Piano Services, we've used it for, I don't know, since the beginning of, I think, their existence, but we use the Rayburn Cyber Tuner, or the Rayburn Cyber Ear. For as long as I've used it, I actually don't know which one it is because I've been told it's both. And so we like using the Rayburn Cyber Ear. As members of the Artisan School, we do get special rates and discounts. So if you are watching this and you're part of the school, just message us and we can get you hooked up. But it's a great device. I would say it's about the most user-friendly. It's incredibly accurate. And this ETD allows me to follow what is just a roadmap. And whereas if I'm tuning it orally, I'm building that roadmap as I go. I'm constantly checking it. This allows me to focus on following a roadmap, but it allows me to focus on tuning stability. And that's core. That's really crucial as piano technicians, tuning stability. People will call you back not because the stretch is a little bit off or a little too narrow or this. They're going to call you because your unisons have gone out of tune. And using an ETD allows you to focus more on the unisons and creating a very solid tuning versus creating the tuning 100%. So I am going to be showing you kind of using this ETD. I like tuning grands partly because I get two things. I get to sit down and it minimizes the tools that I need. So the next thing I have is go to tuning lever, which I'm getting a lot of tuning levers. I'm fortunate enough being a part of the school that we're now getting more toys to work with. By the way, there's a new video coming out today. So be on YouTube because there's another one posting today and it's kind of talks about the toys. But you're gonna need a tuning lever. Whether you're gonna go the kind of the entry level and get an apprentice lever, or you're gonna start to kind of level up. I actually don't recommend leveling up too soon. So you may be like, hey, I'm going to just go for it. $1,000. Here's a high-end tuning lever. I've had so many people do that. And then they're like, ugh, now that I've been tuning for a year, I kind of like this. Is anybody here right now in the class, have they had that happen? I'm just curious. Where they're like, I kind of shouldn't have bought that. And you don't have to name names of what you bought, but.
David, I'm actually
Yeah.
glad I did upgrade my lever quickly because I had an apprentice lever that was steel and it bent, had a lot of flex to it. And so me
Yeah.
upgrading to, carbon fiber and then getting used to that has been well worth doing it. So, but to your point, yeah, you got to have enough skill before you figure out what type of lever you want to go toward.
That is a really good point, though, Michael, because it is like if you are at very, very, very baseline level with your tools, it will harm your process. It will hamper your process. So that is a really good point. The tuning levers that are available on the market, more the professional grade, I have seen anywhere between $300 and $800 is typically what I see them falling at. I think there's a Leviton tuning lever that I absolutely really love. And I think that's available at Schaff or Howard. And that's a very good low price point, but an amazing lever, very lightweight. Geeking out to levers, it seems like what has happened though is people have gone away from the extension levers. I don't even know if a new manufacturer is any new lever manufacturer even making extension ones? Michael, do you know? I don't think they are.
I don't know.
I don't think. So today's levers are more like the carbon fiber. They're going to be a lot less weight and have a really, a stiffness to them, which is great, what you want. And then have a tip that just fits really nicely. I would say that's part of the reason why I like the ergo hammer, though, is because um, it was kind of a going backwards to more of a wood and steel. But again, everybody can choose kind of their own route, and it is very much like Harry Potter choosing your wand chooses you. That's it. It does feel like that, or Star Wars lightsabers. I digress. You're going to need a tuning lever. And finally, you're going to go ahead and need a tuning mute. And again, I like using just as few tools as possible. And so when I'm tuning a grand, I have three things. I have an ETD, I have a tuning lever, and I have a mute. This historically has been the mute of choice for grands. I think this is a 3/4 or a 1 inch by, I don't know, 3 inch. And I like how short it is because I want to really go in very quickly and not have to the longer the wedge mute is, the more I'm kind of having to make sure that I'm getting it in the right spot. So a big thing that we teach here at the Artisan School is speed and efficiency. And so we're always trying to trim down whatever little things that we're getting hung up on that are making it so that we're not as efficient or as quick as we could be. Because what we've found is most people do not want you in their home for more than about an hour and a half. When they're scheduling you to come out to tune a piano, they're really hoping that you're going to be done within the hour and a half. And that seems counterintuitive because I know that when I started, it was like, no, I got to give them all their money's worth. I need to be here for at least 3 hours. I'm charging a lot. Mrs. Smith, with her 3 kids that she's shuffling to soccer practice, piano lessons, and whatever, she does not want you in your house for 3 hours on a first-time service. So getting that time down to that hour and a half is going to be crucial. Again, that takes a while to get there, but we can kind of help you along the process. So we've got our 3 tools, and I did want to mention one other thing, and that is a case or some kind of a housing system for your ETD. Now, I do think that they still make these. I don't know, Ramses, or Michael. I think you guys might have had purchased these before. I think you can get them at Rayburn. I could be wrong, but I know that you can still get these bases.
Hey, David, we lost your audio. I thought it was just me, but now I'm like, something happened. It's not just me, you guys. Thanks for chiming in the chat there. So, I wonder if it's this Kajabi glitch we've been dealing with. Is the rest of your audios working? Like if you guys unmuted, can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
I can hear Michael. Okay. Justin, just say something. Be like, hey. Hey. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, David. This happened to me yesterday. It was lovely. I wonder, if you go back out and go back in, sometimes that fixes it if it's a Kajabi thing, and it'll just keep recording. So so he'll be back. I'm so sorry, guys. They did an upgrade in Kajabi like 3 weeks ago, and ever since then there's been a few glitches, but hopefully it'll work out quickly. Maybe I could show you. Oh, if he doesn't come back soon, I want to show you the video we made yesterday. It's really cool. I'll post it on YouTube too, but it was really cool. I'm uploading it right now as we speak. So hopefully we'll get him back. Everyone's quiet.
Hey, Stacy, I saw the note from Gazelle that Tim's stepping back from operations.
True.
Do you know any more details? Is he focusing on something else, or do you know?
I know he has his foundation, right? That he's really passionate about. So I haven't actually talked to him, but I speculate. This is all speculation. I don't know if it's like just slowing down because it's a lot, health issues, foundation. It could be any, I don't know. It's kind of, I know everyone's like buzzing about it.
Well, I was wondering whether, in focusing on more teaching type stuff. Sort of
He
like
does
what
like to
David's
teach.
doing. So I was kind of guessing that maybe it was more that way. But if I didn't realize he had a foundation, but that makes sense if he's going to put.
Yeah, I'll put the link. It's a really cool one, actually.
Testing. Hello.
We're good.
Woo! I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Not you. It's Kajabi, guys.
Where did I lose you?
That's when you switch camera angles to the grand.
Okay.
Yeah, you were like talking about your hammers.
What?
Well, no, you were at the point where you were talking about the cradle of the phone is when I lost
Okay.
it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's test this out. I'm going to switch camera angles and see if we lose me, okay? Ready? Testing. Can you hear me? Thumbs up?
That's good.
Okay. We're talking about the cradle. I like to be able to move this around. These are going to be available. They're doing a new rendition of this on Supply 88 that they're going to be working on. And so these cradle systems will be available in a whole nother way and get all the cool Supply 88 stuff with it. So the thing that I really want to impress upon you is the technique. If you learn one thing, it's how important the technique really is. And what I see a lot of, and I've talked about this a lot, is people kind of tuning out here. And there's multiple things off with this. So you can tune a piano this way. You can tune a piano. But the efficiency, the amount of muscle control, what it's doing to your body, how accurate, I question all that. And so when you're tuning a grand piano, I think of this idea of, if you look at, I promise you this isn't one of those like, hey, look at that, the muscle thing. This is, think of this square. So if you see this.
You'll need to move your arm over, yeah.
Yeah, let's do this. Let me kind of back up just a little bit so you can see it. But this is really important, and it's what we teach here. And so a lot of people say, okay, well, what's that angle? So if you look right here, I'm kind of going, there's these right angles. If I tip it up, that's what it looks like, almost like this square. And so I am retaining this shape right here throughout the piano. And so that is what I have found to be the most efficient. I'm close in. I'm using the correct muscles. And so let's just show you. So
I
as
got
you
here
can
just
see,
in time for the gun show.
what is that? How's it going, Jake?
Good. How are you guys? Good morning.
We're fumbling through this lesson with technical issues, but I think that now that you're here, we will not have any more technical
Well,
issues.
sure. Yeah.
So the technique is so crucial, everybody. That's what I'm saying is the technique is crucial, and we want to be doing just everything that we can to make sure that we're hitting that correct posture. So I am close in. If you notice, I'm not out here doing this thing and kind of leaning over. What I like to do is, because it forces me to do it. I take my bench and I put it, it's not parallel, perpendicular. I put it perpendicular to the piano, so it forces me to really be in this position as I go all the way down. Does that make sense? So I'm going all the way down with this. I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm right here. And again, this is what it looks like. And what this does is it allows me to use minimal muscle movements, minimal muscles. I can focus it in certain areas, and allows me to really hone in on tuning stability and just minute pin movements. I'm one of these people that when I'm holding my tuning lever, again, this is probably preference. I'm curious, Jacob, what you do, but I'm usually not here. But and I know that a lot of great technicians are over here. I know some people are right here, but I'm this. And I don't know if it's because I've always been used to this lever, but this is where I'm at. I feel like it gives me just a lot of control. Jake, what do you do?
It does change depending on the tuning level for me.
Yeah.
But even now, I've been kind of trying your method of having my thumb and then my fingers around there. So I've been trying your technique there on my tuning lever. And that's what I've been doing lately. So
Yeah.
but before that, I have been at the very end of the tuning lever just as a ball lever, because it's at least for Rayburn, it's a larger ball
it is.
at the end. So it's nice. This actually works for me as well, but I wanted to try yours too.
So I think that there's always pros and cons to each. The further away you are from the tuning pin, the pro is that it's going to be easier to tune that tuning pin because you have more leverage. You're further away from it. So it's less muscle to do it. However, there's a potential for more flag pulling of the pin and less fine movements. At least that's what I've been told. I don't know how. It seems like that makes sense. So that's why when you're further in towards the tuning pin, yeah, you might be able to get some nice fine movements and do some fun stuff, but you're using more muscle when you're doing that. Yeah. Because you're just closer to that pin. So to each their own, and everybody's going to kind of play with that. But the nice thing is what we're teaching here, whether you're here or here, it doesn't change this orientation. It doesn't change your body position. Another thing to consider, and I've heard some people recently say, no, it actually doesn't matter. But I feel like it does. I'm not here trying to tune it. I'm not here. Even if I could get my body, I'm trying to keep it within about an 11-1 of the string. That's me. I find that if I can keep it around here, I'm just more effective with it. I'm quicker. I might go, in a moment like, oh man, it's pushing me way over here. But again, I'm moving my body. If you notice, I'm moving my body as a whole to kind of compensate so that I'm keeping this shape throughout. And again, I can't stress that enough of just getting used to. By the way, I've noticed that I do the same thing. You know how I mentioned with grands how I kick it flat ever so slightly and then I pull it up. I do the same thing for grands, and I only noticed it after I was thinking about it after our lesson, and so I do that same thing. And even if you just noticed there, granted I'm detuning it and then just tuning it back up, but that's the natural thing for me, and so. I would say that this is going to be a little bit more, like Jacob said last time, that this is more on the controversial end of things because you can definitely go way too far with this. But it is a technique, and it's one that you should know of because this is something that I've been doing for the last 20 years. I would say that if I got a lot of criticism from the end user, the players, and like, hey, your tunings don't hold, dude, I'd be like, okay, I probably shouldn't teach this. But for the most part, there's a stability that I have within my tunings that is pretty solid. Pretty solid tuner, guys. No. Yeah, exactly. What a tool. Sorry. I'm just trying to explain, like,
Instead of Bill and Ted, it's David and Jake. Yeah. Is that what we're saying?
That's right. Yeah. It's your
questions
experience.
Yeah. Questions about any of this so far, and then another question is: how many grands versus uprights would you say? What percentage of your workload is grands versus uprights?
I wish it was larger grand.
Well, I just looked at my data, so, and this holds true since I started, but the past month I had close to 30% of my work was on grands, and I think overall it's been about 25 to 27%, and then spinnets have been about the same numbers, between 27 and 30% for spinnets.
Oh, wow. And
then the rest are either consoles, full uprights, or studios.
That's cool, Dayada. Oh, Stacy, I would say that's kind of close to what we have, right?
Okay, this is like super interesting, right? So out of like, let's say, I'd say a fifth of them are grands. I'm looking at
20%. 20%.
20%. I'm literally looking at the numbers. There's some that are unknown. They're not labeled if they're grand or upright. But yeah, it looks like 20%. I'll bet maybe 20 to 25. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, mine is 24% on Gazelle. Similar.
Wow. Gazelle actually shows you that?
Yeah, it's right
Yeah, it
there.
gives me a data.
How do you think we're so smart with this data?
I was like, wow, you guys are dynamite in Excel spreadsheets all of a sudden.
You're like, Stacy keeps track too. Everyone keeps track. No, Gazelle plugin right there.
Okay.
Yeah, my Gazelle says 47% grands.
Oh, Justin for the win.
I've done 7 pianos, so it's not like a huge data pool.
I don't know if I would say this, but I'm going to say it. I would say that the majority of people with grand pianos are pickier for their tunings. I think it's because it's two things. One is a lot of people upgrade to a grand piano because they're playing more and they're more proficient. They're higher end in the sense of they've been playing for a longer time and they know what they want and they're elevating their musical craft. And so they're more particular on the tuning than say I think an upright. And I think that secondarily, a lot of people with the grand piano in their home, even if they don't play a lot, it's such a statement focal piece in the home that they really want it in tune. I don't know. Do you think that's accurate? I don't know. I mean, no matter what, as technicians, we need to do a good tuning, whether it's a grand or an upright, but I have noticed that it feels like overall, granted, it's only 20 or 30% of our customers are grands, but those 20 or 30% are more per capita or whatever, more intense on, okay, they have more needs when it comes to the tunings and is more of a stringent. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I think at least maybe it's like cost sunk kind of thing where they're putting a lot more money into it. But yeah, it does also seem that at least there's a majority of actual piano players that own a grand versus an upright. And then spinets are kind of the opposite, right?
Yeah, that's true. But the nice thing though is with the grand piano, with what it is, usually I'm able to get a far better tuning on the grand than I am a spinet. Even if it is a short 5'0" grand, it usually is going to come out pretty good. The muting technique that I use is really simple. So obviously for my single strings, I'm not, and again, I'm using this hybrid tuning method where I'm using an ETD. I'm just going through. The nice thing about the Cyber Tuner, I believe most tuners, I believe a lot of the new tuning devices that are on the market do the same thing in that they spit you out on the far left side of the piano at A0 and you work your way from left to right. Again, chime in if you're like, no, I actually use this and it does something different because I am curious. But you got your single strings, then you have your bichords. And I'm doing the same thing where I'm muting the far right string in my bichords and I'm tuning the left string. And then, so let's just say hypothetically, I'm tuning, I guess we don't have to hypothetical. I guess I could just do it, right?
Just to answer your question, yeah, with a SAT, it does spit you out at the bottom. For TuneLab, for some reason, it doesn't for me, so I have to go manually. But maybe that's just my settings.
You know, on Pianoscope, if you're doing a pitch raise, it spits you at A0. But if you're just doing a tuning, you can start anywhere and work your way around. So,
that's kind of cool.
So, you know, if you wanted to start in the mid-range and work your way up and then do the bass second or bass, you know, do the mid-range, go to the bass, then do the high end, you can choose that. But if you're doing a pitch raise, it will spit you at the bottom and it wants you to go chromatic.
I see.
Yeah, I use Pianoscope and I start the tenor break on a regular.
You do start the tenor break. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but for me, psychologically, I kind of like just going from left to right, like I'm reading a book, you know, just all the way down. I don't know. That's for me is worked out. But I could see that in the tenor break there being a good one too. But as far as my rhythm goes, I'm like, okay, I want to tune this bass section within 7 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes. I want to get through this bass section so that I'm spending more time in that mid section and the treble, in the tenor. And so I'm shooting for 5 to 10 minutes, usually about 20 minutes right here, and maybe another 20 minutes over here. And so that's kind of how I'm looking at it, because I want to tune the piano in 45 minutes to an hour, and so that I have room to like do some extra stuff. So again, our service calls usually, well, if they're just doing an express tuning, they're just having a tuning done. So you can tune in about 45 minutes plus 15 minutes for the paperwork. Bing, bang, boom. That's what it is. That's what they want. They're happy, and we go and do a tuning. But a lot of other service calls, we're doing an hour and a half or 2 hour block if they're wanting extra services. But again, it takes a while to get to where you're breaking through that pattern and getting to where you can tune a piano in less than an hour. And I totally understand it. That takes a while, but it also takes intentionality. And it takes that practice of, okay, I'm giving myself 10 minutes for this bass section, and work that on your own time at your own pianos and just like, okay, did I do it? Granted, you're using ETD, so that makes it easier. Okay, 10 minutes. Did I do it? Yes. How's it sound? Pretty good. Great. Check. Now you've kind of unlocked that level, you know? Okay, now I can go to the next level. And I'm going to go and work on trimming down this midsection from an hour down to slowly 20 minutes. Or 25 minutes.
David, thinking about, you know, if you have a piano that's not too far out of tune and you set these time frames of 10 minutes, 20, if you're doing a pitch raise, let's say the piano is 100 cents flat, how much time are you taking for the pitch raise in those sections to get it up to pitch to then go back and do a fine tuning? And so if you look at your numbers that you gave for just a regular tuning, how much extra time are you allocating for that?
I was just at a customer's yesterday or the other day, and they were at a retirement center. She's this sweet 90-year-old woman. She gifted her piano to the chapel at the retirement center. And she's like, I haven't tuned this piano in 20 or 30 years. I'm like, great, this should be fun. So I get to the piano, and it is 50 cents flat. And I got approval for just the tuning itself. And so she's like, yeah, I said, this is going to need multiple tunings. And I got halfway through it, and they're like, yeah, I don't know if we want to pay for an extra one. In my mind, I was like, yeah, I have to do more. So I actually took, Michael, way more time and just did one pass, but I kind of babied it, went back a little bit on the bass, and it kept on going. As soon as she said, hey, I got the approval, you can just do another tuning today, I spent 10 minutes and just whipped through my pitch raise. So that, I don't know if that answers the question. So
yeah,
it's
the reason
so
I'm
case
asking,
by case.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, one, I'm trying to get my speed, tighter and tighter. But, right now, most of the pianos I'm working on require a pitch raise of, like you said, 50 cents, 80 cents, 100 cents. And so I'm having to spend a considerable amount of time, plus, these older pianos that the pins are super tight, and I'm babying them so I don't break strings and stuff. So I'm having to spend a considerable amount of time to bring them up to pitch. And then I'm not doing a full second tuning. I'm just having to touch up some stuff as I'm, after the pitch raise, and usually leaving it a little bit sharp in the mid range and the high end, just because I'm pulling it up to allow it to stretch back into pitch.
So, yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, thinking about your question, no matter what, if I'm going to do a pitch raise or if can you hear me, Ramses? Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay. I think my video. Okay. I'm going to, it takes me less time to do a tuning.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
He's gone. It's magic.
Yeah, there you go.
So I guess the question over to you, Jake. What do you feel as far as extra time spent on doing, bringing it up to pitch, and then?
So on a typical pitch raise, I don't like to go more than 20 minutes, even with one that's being difficult. But I did have one on Monday that it was 170 cents flat in the middle section and over 200 cents flat in the top sections. And so what I ended up doing was I set my limit on TuneLab to 10 cents just because I really didn't want it to go way farther because it's moving a ton already, right? So 170 plus 10 and then plus more in the top sections. So I did 2 pitch raises on that one. And then I said, I'm going to come back later this week. We're going to do a fine tuning. And it was great, but with the exception of like 2 pins that were loose, but I charged for 2 passes, 2 pitch raises. And it, it took 40 minutes, but yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry, guys.
You're back.
I answered your question, Michael. Whenever I'm doing a piano that's like super flat and like that, I'm just doing a quick tuning and telling them I'm going to have to come back, or I'm doing a quick tuning and then doing another tuning. So either way, when I'm that flat, it's a quick tuning. It's a fairly quick tuning, and I'm also
Okay.
I've also started to get like kind of into pushing myself a little bit more to be like, hey, if they paid me for this other tuning, that'd be great. But if not, I'm just going to see how good I can make it sound. I'd quickly do 2 passes anyways. I will say it's, I've done that too.
Yeah, and that's what I need to work at is when I'm doing the pitch raise, just being quicker at doing that first pass. and bringing the strings closer to pitch and not worrying about being too exact and just push. So
yeah, if you're doing a pitch raise as a with that goal in mind, that it's a pitch raise, then the goal of a pitch raise is to increase tension that makes it closer to where you need it to be when you're tuning it. So
are you looking at what, 10 cents either way, 5 cents either way? You know, how far up are you?
I kind of feel it.
What is
if it's a newer piano?
threshold?
Yeah, if it's a newer piano, if there's no signs of corrosion, especially if it's like 20 years old, the top end doesn't really matter. It's not going to break usually. But yeah, if it's older, then I'll start kind of bringing it down. And then, yeah, of course, if it's like 100 years old, I kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll just do it straight. Like, I'm just going to tune it, and then I'm going to tune it again, and then I'm going to tune it again, probably, because I don't.
That gives me some frame of reference.
Yeah, so you'll just have to kind of feel that out as you go. But there is kind of like a sliding scale, and there's not really a good answer for that.
There's really not. Ramses has the answer. I can't hear you.
I can't hear you either.
Oh, Stacy, we've got to go ahead and get Kajabi on the line.
And I can't hear Stacy.
Oh my gosh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear Justin. I can hear
Can you hear Ramses?
I can hear you now.
See now?
Stacy.
I was gonna say I like the way Coburn said it. Like he said he went to an appointment and said he was gonna have to come back, and the guy was like, "Well, shouldn't this sound good now?" And so I've been doing, if I've had to do like 50 or 100 cents, I've been just doing a quick like 10, 20-minute pass just to bring it close, and then doing the fine tuning afterwards in the same appointment.
Yeah, there's I would say earlier on when you have more time on your hands, it's an easier thing to do. It's harder when it's like, shoot, we have this many appointments I have to get done, and we have this, that we have to make payroll, so we need to make this be the charge, and this, so it gets way more complicated later on, in which case you kind of have to be the bad guy. I would say the 9 out of 10 times I feel like I'm the bad guy. I'm like, no, we need to charge for this. And it's not because I'm like this greedy whatever money bags. It's just like, sorry, we have to, this is, it's $50 for an acquisition cost for that customer. It's this, it's unfortunate, but sometimes you cross a barrier where like, okay, now I have to think a little bit bigger and long term. But I would say that early on was some of the funnest times, because there was that ability to be more spontaneous, I would say. And I think that that's good to keep. And I think that we as Artisan are trying to go back to more of that. But it is difficult as you grow. And just so you know, as like Athena, you guys are growing quite a bit. And if you bring on a team, these are the kind of stuff that we can work with you on. And just from our own experience of like, okay, just so you know, establish this, because this is really hard to go back on with your team later on.
Let me pitch you a softball then, because you're balancing it, but why wouldn't you just give away a pitch raise?
If they can do it in the amount of time, yes. Is that what you mean, Jacob? Is like even now with Artisan right now, or are you saying just
or
if they
in
can,
general?
Yeah,
it is true.
I would say if my techs, they do that, Jacob. If they have enough time, they will always do more. Like but if they don't have the time, the customer signed up for this, we have this much time. But I will say a lot of times if they have an extra 15 minutes, they're still using that. So they could throw in a pitch raise sometimes, or I think that's kind of the gauge we're using right now, is how much time.
And Stacey, we hire technicians with a lot of heart, and they want to serve the customer. And so they will none of our technicians they don't have to be the business owners looking at the dollars and cents. We're the ones that are having to be behind the scenes to do that. Luckily, they're on the front lines, and so none of that ever comes out. So that's, it is.
No, that is true. And usually because we're talking to that customer and having that discussion ahead of time, we kind of know what we're walking into most of the time. I mean, that retirement center was a weird one-off because the guy I said, is it this grand that we have on file? It wasn't even that piano. They had a completely different, ended up being this.
And then I had like an hour drive to the next one that I was already going to be late for.
So that does it still happens, but most of the time, at least, I feel like we at least know what we're getting into and about how much time we're going to need, I think, usually. Yeah.
Okay.
Ramses, can we hear you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. Nice haircut.
Oh, thank you. I have a couple of questions. My mic hasn't been working. So first, with regards to pitch raise, I've been trying to figure out if the speed that I go at increases the rate of strings breaking. I feel like, I don't know, mentally when I'm going slow, I feel like I'm taking care of that. But then I've popped strings going slow. And then the other day, I went really fast and didn't pop a single string. Do you guys know if that has any effect at all on popping strings?
Oh, I know. Jacob, I'm so curious what your thoughts are because I'm a fast and I don't break a lot of strings. I'm fast.
Yeah. I've definitely I've thought about this. This is what I've concluded is that the faster you go, the more likely it is you'll have a lapse in concentration. And that's where you might over pull it too far or whatever. But
okay.
I feel like it's part of the risk, and so I just go for it anyway because it needs to be fast for me because I want to get to the tuning anyway. And so if it's going beyond 20 minutes for me, that's way too long. So yeah, I don't know. Take it with salt. I do think that, especially when I'm going slower, I do feel like, you're feeling it out and you don't really, I don't know. But I do get broken strings sometimes, even when I'm going super slow because there's a bunch of corrosion on these strings. And so, yeah, it still happens. So I don't know if speed really matters. And so I've kind of come to that conclusion, right? It's your concentration. You're just, sometimes you're just thinking about something else right then. And then you'll just pull a string too far. I don't know.
Well, and the other thing is that even good looking strings, they'll break when they want to break. So
yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I got to. I just thought if a string is going to break, it's just going to break. Maybe my speed doesn't matter. And I tuned back-to-back 2 spinnets that were 150 cents out. And that's where I compared. I took 3 hours on one, just doing so many tunings slowly. And then the other one, I did it in an hour and a half. And it was the same outcome. I just feel like when I go slow, my anxiety is ramping up because I'm like, okay, here it comes. And so I hate that feeling. It's the worst. I'm like, I even
start clenching your shoulders and
I start praying. I'm like, God, please, don't pop any strings. It's the worst.
One of the forums I was looking at when I was doing my 100% first pitch raise, someone basically said if a string's going to break at a certain pitch, it's going to break. There's no point sneaking up on it. So going slow or fast, it's going to break in the same way anyways.
Maybe, but I also think that again, David's thing of popping it down and then coming back up, I think really does add a little bit more cushion to that because you're breaking the covalent bond of the steel to the wrought iron, and then
what did you just say?
That sounded so scientific.
Yeah, what did you say? Covalent bond?
That was cool.
Can I make that my band name?
It sounded so Cool.
Oh, you know, and the covalent bond.
Well,
No, it's
yeah.
just like it's when molecules are kind of stuck together, but not really chemically. It's just that they're like squished together or something. Anyway,
well, you're
it
definitely
doesn't
Such a
matter.
good way to say it. I loved that. That was awesome.
David, I have another question for you since you use CyberTuner and I use it as well. I've been having a lot of issues with the Smart Tune function, and I feel like it's something that I'm doing wrong. Where you know how it has the overpull setting. Sometimes I'll get through the piano and it didn't go down. It stayed in that sharp. So I don't know if maybe I'm setting the pin too, like I'm taking too much time setting it sharp. Do you know if it's like just get the pitch there, move on? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually been noticing this as well because somebody else mentioned this earlier on in one of our classes. And I've noticed the same thing where I'm like, I get to the end of the piano and I'm like, wow, it's still really sharp. So what I've noticed, then when I started thinking about it more, I'm noticing that I'm going even sharper than what the sharp point that it's having me go to. So what I've decided to do is instead of, and I've been doing this lately, it's been way better. Instead of keeping it sharp and actually past where it should be, I'm like maybe going to where it should be. If anything, it's maybe a little bit flat than that. And I've noticed that that's helped improve that quite a bit. Because I've been like, oh man, the circle's way over here. Okay, I'm gonna get it way over there and probably be past. No, that's now a max for me. And I might not even go that far. And then I also notice on your Smart Tune feature that sometimes if one note is really far out, it like launches it over into the stratosphere. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And if I kind of like put it to where the others have been, and then I move on to the next note, it's like it's kind of back where it needs to be.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't understand why. It's probably a term that Jacob knows of molecules and vibrations and
so is it
tectonic
doing
plates.
Is it measuring it like individually and then gives you an overpull from there, or how is it doing that?
Every single note, it's adjusting how much you overpull. And then sometimes it works where by the time you go back, everything is like either right on it or slightly under, and it's beautiful. But then other times I've gotten to the end and everything is at the overpull. It didn't go down at all. So I don't know what to do. I'm like, do I wait? Do I just pull it back down? And I feel like it adds another 30, 40 minutes because I'm like retuning it, pulling it down. It's frustrating.
Ramses, another thing that I have noticed in this is if I have an old historic upright where the strings don't have a lot of stretch, I'll get through that pitch raise or that, and then go to my second one and they'll still be way sharp because guess what? Those strings don't have a lot of stretch. It's seasoned. And so it stays where you put it. And no matter what, I don't think CyberTune can account for that. They're saying, hey, a normal average piano, if you stretched it this much, it will stretch back down this much. But sometimes these pianos are like, nope, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, so that's why lately I've been doing it adds so much time, but I know that it's staying there. I do a fine tuning first, and then I do the Smart Tune afterwards. I mean, I'm tuning it twice, but I don't like the feeling of leaving and being like, man, what if it stays sharp or what if it,
Yeah.
So, I've been kind of going back and forth with that.
You're going to make a lot of people really happy. You're going to have some good reviews. So it's time and money well spent in that regard, especially right now as you're building your book of business.
Yeah. One more question, David, on grand tuning. Another thing I've noticed, I notice when I'm tuning grands, I have a lot more flagpoling. But I notice it with certain makes, like Yamaha, for some reason. Like as soon as I'm like going right, like to do the click, the pitch has like gone completely far out, and then like I'm having to like kind of like push down to like get it to where it actually is, like reveal where the pitch is. I don't know if I'm adding too much pressure or I don't know, but it just happens when I'm with grands for some reason. Like I'm having to guess where the pitch actually is, because I feel like I'm bending the pin or something is going on.
And it's not with uprights. You're just noticing it on the grands.
I mean, more with the grands. Definitely with some uprights. Like for some reason, I noticed it with Yamaha B2s. It's always the case. Like I don't know. Like as soon as I go sharp, the pitch goes like to the next note, kind of, and then I'm like, okay, I'm having to push it down, like, or like kind of like hit it down.
Yeah.
Like my mentor taught me.
I would say check two things. One is check your posture and make sure that you're right there. But also, I experiment with that down push. You know, I mean, as that first stroke down, just a little bit to break it up. And then try that. Try that on your next grand. And just, again, I'm breaking it down a couple cents. I mean, let's just see. I don't know. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
David.
Yeah, it just practice that. I would really, because I know what you're talking about, and I notice that for myself when a piano's really in tune, and I'm like, oh, I just got to get it just a little bit, and I spend way more time doing it because I'm not doing that technique. It'd almost be better if I broke it and then brought it back to where it needs to be. So I noticed the issue you're talking about when it's super close to being in tune, and I don't do my protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. When it's just like 3 cents off, and I feel like I'm moving it so much, and you're right. When I've done your technique, I feel like it reveals the pitch sooner. If that's like a term to use. But what was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh yeah. So when you go down, are you going until you click it down, or is it more of a like push down and then let's go?
Yeah. Do you feel like
sometimes I get a
moving?
click? Sometimes, yeah, the pin is definitely moving, and sometimes I get a click, sometimes I don't. You know, with Yamahas, usually I'll get a click because they're. By the way, Yamahas, just so you guys know, insider scoop, and I don't know if most people know this. I didn't know this until I talked to Yamaha. They use one of the reasons that the Yamahas are so easy to tune is they use actually a smaller tuning pin than all other pianos out there. They use a 1.5. And so that smaller tuning pin allows for more smaller movements because that coil around the pin is the theory. The coil around the pin, because it's less mass, you're able to get smaller, minute changes, and it makes everything just that much smoother. And if you play some of the old pianos that have a 1/0 tuning pin, it kind of has that same similar feel. And so I thought that was interesting. I had no idea because I'm like, why are Yamahas for me easier to tune? And they're like, well, you know about the smaller pin? I'm like, I do, but pretend I don't and tell me about it anyways. So yeah, I would say the down click and just try do that because the stuff that I've noticed, the same thing, Ramses, when I do it. It's when I'm trying to make final minute changes, it takes me way longer. And if I would have just done my normal protocol, would have been done and probably would have been more stable.
Okay. Yeah.
Victor with the hype today. Nice. Any other questions before we start our weekend? Victor looks like he's going to say something.
Oh, David, I have one question because I've run into issues where I'm having to kind of change my posture. When I'm at the very end doing the high treble, my arm and my tuning lever gets in the way of the lid prop.
100%. Yeah.
How are you working around that?
I'm not one of these. I'm not an ambi-turner. An ambi-turner.
Left hand. Left hand.
So what I do, and let's see if I can get an angle that's somewhat decent with this. Bear with me.
Yeah, because I have had to tune left-handed because the piano's up against the wall, and you just have to do it left-handed. But I'm curious to see how you work around the lid prop.
I would say that it usually happens to me around the F all the way down to the C, where I'm not getting a good angle. So I literally will come here and tune it this way. I'm going to come, and I'm not out here. I'm nice and tight here. I'm almost keeping this position like this, and I'm going like that. And at times when there's just weird things going on, I'll wrap my arm around it and tune it like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
And so I'm still, if you actually look at it almost a top down, I'm still keeping a lot of that same shape. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things. Wasn't it like Da Vinci that did like the human man? Like, you know, it was like, I don't know, like the perfect geometry. I feel like there's something like that for this tuning. And because it seems like whenever I'm in a different position, I keep that same geometry, the same angles. And so, yeah, I will either sit right over here and tune, doing the same thing. I'll come up, or I'll actually even go over here. Those are the three things that I'll do. All to avoid tuning left-handed, I guess.
Great. That's great.
What about you, Jacob? Did you do any of those?
I tune left-handed. Yeah, once I get to the top.
I tune left-handed. I'm Jacob. I
It's
tune
easier.
left-handed. It is easier. I get that, but
it's almost to the point where you don't even have to like move the bench, because you just get to the top and then you just switch hands.
Okay. Settle down.
At least, anyway.
Yeah, you get the double workout.
I'm evening it out.
I do the same thing going around the lid prop. I'll do left-handed if the pins aren't too sensitive, but sometimes I can't do it left-handed. It just depends on the piano.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say try everything that we're talking about, whether it sticks, whether you like it, because you never know what one little thing, what one little adjustment, what one little technique change can absolutely be a game changer for your business, for your technique, for your day, for your how you do your craft. So I think that that's what this is all about. And as we get more people coming in and more perspectives, that's going to be fun, because what we want is all the perspectives, all the ideas. What we don't want is any judgment at all. It's more of a, hey, let me try that. I'm going to try that. Jacob is one of the most least judgmental people I know, because I'll say something like, hey, did you think about that? And he's like, oh yeah, actually for the last 2 months I've been experimenting with that, and I came to these conclusions. It's really cool. I'm like, what? Whoa.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I've been doing this for 25 years, and I like to try things, because I'm not going to sit there and go, I know the way, I know the right way. There isn't a right way. There's lots of ways to get there. So I like trying new things.
Be thinking about this over the weekend, because on Monday I would like to hear for everybody when we do the Mondays lesson. By the way, Stacy Beadle is going to be in Oregon on Monday for the live with me. And I want to know each of your top 3. So this is the video we shot yesterday, and it's going to be posting today. What are the 3 reasons you love Pianocraft and working on pianos? And so let's talk about it on Monday. I want to know what those are for you, and watch the video. And I want to see if it hit home for any of you what my 3 are. So that's coming. We'll probably, when Stacy's done doing the whatever to it, she'll probably post it on our feed, if we can, Stacy, so that our group gets to see it first.
I posted it, so I'll hurry and post it to the feed.
Wait, you already posted it? Wow.
Oh, you wanted me to post it today. Sorry. I'll put the link in the feed. Sorry.
All right, go on YouTube, and we got a new video. But this is great. Thank you so much. Have an amazing weekend. I want to hear your top 3, and we'll get a list of the next lives for next week. In the feed, write some ideas on what you guys want to learn from Jacob and myself, because we're kind of done with the aural tuning portion, at least that section. So now we can kind of move on to some other fun stuff.
Yeah, Jacob, we could do strings on Wednesday if you want to, because you had a jig made up, right, for that?
No, I'm still working on it. But
oh, okay. Well, let us know. Yeah, let us know. We'll post what we're gonna do. Be thinking whatever. I'm good with whatever.
Yeah. We're good.
See y'all on Monday.
Yeah, definitely ask. So
have a great weekend.
Bye.
this many days old, now many days old, to when I found out how much water I actually